The office was silent, eerily so. Most of the world was asleep, but inside the towering glass building in the city's business district, the air buzzed faintly with the hum of machines left running overnight. Lights flickered softly on motion sensors, casting long shadows across spotless tile floors. In those shadows moved a girl, slim, quiet, and nearly invisible. Her name was Mehak Raza, and she was the one who kept the building gleaming while no one watched. Clad in a faded gray uniform and scuffed white sneakers, she dragged a mop bucket behind her, its wheels creaking softly with every turn. She worked from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., 5 nights a week, barely earning enough to pay rent for the small one-room space she shared with her younger brother. Most nights, she barely spoke a word to anyone. Not because she didn't want to, but because no one ever noticed her. To the employees who worked the 9 to 5 grind, she was just the cleaning girl. A nameless face in the background, blending into silence. But there was something no one knew about Mehak. Every night, once her tasks were done, floors mopped, bins emptied, coffee mugs rinsed, she would retreat to a small, quiet corner near the back office where the windows stretched from floor to ceiling. The view of the sleeping city always calmed her heart. There, beneath a flickering ceiling light, she would open her worn-out sketchbook, its cover stained with mop water and ink, and draw. Her fingers, calloused from scrubbing and sweeping, moved like magic over the page. Using just a pencil, a broken eraser, and discarded office paper, Mehak brought entire worlds to life. Faces of people she imagined. Streets from memories she missed. Dreams she hadn't dared to speak aloud. It wasn't just drawing, it was escape. It was therapy. It was where she poured all the colors that were missing from her life. One night, after finishing her shift early, she sat cross-legged near the window and began sketching a portrait of her mother. She hadn't drawn her in months, not since she passed away. But tonight, something urged her. A deep ache. A need to remember. Tears pricked her eyes as she shaded the soft smile she could never forget. She didn't hear the soft click of the security guard making his rounds. She didn't hear the wind tapping against the tall windows. She was somewhere else, deep inside her art, painting pain into beauty. As dawn approached, the sky turned shades of dusty rose and orange. The city stretched itself awake. Mehak checked her watch, 4:07 a.m. She gasped, quickly gathered her things, stuffed her sketchbook into her bag, and rushed to clock out before the day staff arrived. But in her haste, she didn't realize one thing. Her sketchbook, her secret, her soul, had slipped from her bag and lay quietly under the corner desk. Its pages fluttered in the breeze of the air conditioner. Waiting to be found. She boarded the bus home, unaware that her life was about to change forever. The morning light poured into the office lobby in golden sheets, bouncing off glass walls and polished floors. The usual buzz had returned, clicking heels, murmured meetings, and the smell of fresh brewed coffee drifting from the break room. The building had returned to its usual rhythm. But something unusual was waiting to be discovered. Zion Malik, the 32-year-old CEO of Crestline Media, was known for being one of the youngest and most brilliant minds in the advertising industry. Polished, sharp-eyed, and always a few steps ahead of the curve, he had a reputation for catching details others missed. That morning, he arrived early, earlier than usual. He enjoyed the stillness before the day began, the way the office looked when it was half asleep. It gave him space to think. To plan. To dream. He walked past rows of cubicles and paused near the corner window, his favorite place to take calls. Something odd caught his eye. A small, tattered sketchbook lay just beneath one of the desks. Its corner stuck out, pages slightly curled. It didn't belong there. Zion bent down, picked it up, and turned it over in his hands. The cover was faded and soft at the edges, as if it had been held thousands of times. There was no name on it. Just smudges, stains, and pencil marks. Curious, he opened it. And then he froze. The first page showed a portrait so raw, so alive, that it took his breath away. It was a woman's face, wrinkled, kind-eyed, and smiling gently. The detail was staggering. Each line on her face seemed to speak of a lifetime. The shading was masterful, the emotion undeniable. He flipped to the next page, and then the next. Street scenes, children playing, hands holding hands, eyes filled with emotion, a bird mid-flight, all sketched with heartbreaking honesty. No fancy tools. No color. Just a pencil and pain. A rare, powerful kind of talent. Zion sat down at the edge of the desk, his mind racing. Who made this? And more importantly, how was this hidden under his nose? He turned to the last page and noticed something different. A faintly written quote was scribbled at the bottom in delicate handwriting. Maybe one day, someone will see what I see, and it will mean something. Zion leaned back, staring at the words. They weren't written for him, but they might as well have been. He looked up, eyes scanning the office, trying to recall who might have left this behind. It couldn't be an employee, he knew all the designers, and this level of emotional depth didn't match any of them. Security, he called. Moments later, the night security guard entered, looking puzzled. Yes, sir. Zion held up the sketchbook. This was found under the corner desk. Do you know who might have left it? The guard squinted. That might be the girl who cleans at night. She sometimes sits there and draws, I think. I've seen her once or twice. Zion's eyebrows rose. The cleaning girl? The guard nodded. Quiet one. Doesn't talk much. Always carries a little bag. Zion stared at the sketchbook in his hands again, stunned by the irony. All this time, he'd been searching for authentic creativity, something that felt real, and it had been hiding on the night shift, mopping floors and wiping windows. He stood, determination settling into his expression. Find out her name, he said. Tell HR I want to meet her, personally. The sketchbook, once forgotten, had just become the key to a future no one saw coming. The HR department was in a quiet storm. When a CEO asks to meet a janitor personally, eyebrows rise, phones buzz, and speculation runs wild. But Zion Malik had made himself clear, find her. I need her name, her schedule, everything. Today. By afternoon, her file sat neatly on his desk. Name, Mehak Raza, age 24, hired through a third-party cleaning agency 2 years ago. No formal education beyond high school. Emergency contact listed as her younger brother. Nothing unusual. Nothing that hinted at brilliance. Except that sketchbook. Zion tapped his pen against the file and looked again at the book lying beside it. Its pages now felt sacred, whispers from a soul trying desperately to be heard in a world that only listened to loud success. He turned to the final page again. That quiet message stared back. Maybe one day, someone will see what I see. He had seen it. He stood and walked out of his office. Tell her to come in tonight, he said to HR, after her shift. I'll wait. That night, Mehak moved through the halls with heavier steps than usual. Her day had been strange. The manager from the cleaning company had called her in the morning, stuttering, nervous. Mehak, the CEO himself asked for you. You didn't do anything, right? She hadn't. At least, she didn't think so. Now, past midnight, she felt her hands trembling slightly as she pushed her cleaning cart through the dim corridor leading to the top floor, the executive floor. Her mind spun wildly with possibilities. Had she broken something? Forgotten a room? Did someone complain? She paused at the CEO's glass office door. Through the blinds, she saw him, standing with his back to her, holding something in his hands. A guard opened the door. Go in. She stepped inside quietly, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Zion turned. He held the sketchbook. Her breath caught in her throat. For a second, time froze. He didn't speak right away. Just walked forward slowly, holding the book like it was something fragile. "Is this yours?" She nodded hesitantly, her fingers clutching the hem of her shirt. "I found it under a desk," he said gently. "I've never seen art like this before. Not in a long time." She lowered her eyes. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to leave it." "Don't apologize," he said firmly. "You gave me something I've been searching for months." Her eyes snapped up. "I run a creative company," he continued, walking toward the wide glass window, flipping through the pages. "We spend thousands trying to find people who can feel something, and put it on a page. But what you did in here," he held up the sketchbook, "this is raw. Real. Emotional." She swallowed hard. "I only draw when I finish my shift. I just like to imagine things." He turned back to her. "Where did you learn this?" "I didn't. I just kept drawing when my mom passed. It helped me breathe." That answer made Zion pause. He saw it now, the quiet grief behind the strokes, the strength behind the softness. "You know," he said finally, "there's a place in this company for someone like you. But not behind a mop." She stared at him, wide-eyed. What do you mean?" "I want to offer you a role. Part-time, to start. As a junior concept artist for our media campaigns. Training will be provided. You'll work under our lead designers." She blinked, stunned. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "No more floors," he added. "Just a desk. A drawing tablet. And your imagination." Tears welled in her eyes, quick, silent, like a storm she'd kept locked for years. "Sir. I don't know what to say." "Say yes." She nodded. A smile trembled across her lips. "Yes." Zion smiled back, quietly. And in that moment, a janitor stopped being invisible. She had been seen. 2 months passed, just 60 days, but Mehak's life had transformed in ways she could have never imagined. Gone were the nights of silent footsteps and dirty gloves. Gone was the oversized mop bucket and the smell of bleach that clung to her palms. Now, every morning she walked into Crestline Media not as someone invisible, but as a junior concept artist, her name on a badge, her ideas heard, and her seat next to people she once only saw in glimpses. Her desk was by the window. A sleek drawing tablet waited for her each day, along with a warm cup of chai that the receptionist, Ria, now brought her with a smile. It still felt surreal. The team had been hesitant at first. Whispers had followed her into meetings. "Is she the janitor girl?" they'd murmur behind half-lowered laptops. But the whispers faded the moment she opened her sketchbook. Her first official concept was for a children's awareness campaign. She created a series of illustrations that told the story of a blind boy who found a way to see the world through music. When she presented it, the room had gone completely silent. No applause. No comments. Just silence, and then someone stood and said, "That was beautiful." That moment was when the tide turned. Her storyboard soon became the backbone of the campaign. Zion ensured she got credit. Her name appeared in the internal newsletter. A few days later, a major design blog shared her work with the headline, "From Janitor to Genius. Meet the hidden artist of Crestline Media." The post went viral. By week's end, Mehak was trending on LinkedIn and X, formerly Twitter. Her inbox flooded with messages, encouragement, collaboration offers, even job invitations from creative agencies. But she ignored them all. Her loyalty, her gratitude, belonged to the place that gave her a chance, and to the man who first opened her sketchbook. One evening, just before sunset, Zion was reviewing campaign metrics in his office. The see-through sound campaign, built on Mehak's art, was outperforming every projection. Engagement was through the roof. Sponsors were calling daily. There was a knock. "Come in," he said. Mehak stepped in, holding a folded sheet of paper. "Sir, may I?" "Always," he said, gesturing to the seat. She sat, eyes bright but nervous. "I just wanted to give you this." He took the paper, unfolded it, and froze. It was a drawing, his portrait. But it wasn't a typical sketch. She had drawn him not as a CEO, not in a suit, but sitting under a tree with a group of kids, barefoot and smiling, free, unguarded. His eyes were closed, his face peaceful. Below it, a quote. "You saw me when I didn't even know how to look at myself." He looked up, speechless. "I used to draw the world I wished existed," she said, voice soft. "And now, I live in it." Zion's throat tightened. "Mehak. You didn't just change my job," she added, standing. "You changed my life." He smiled gently. "You earned every bit of it." Before she turned to leave, she paused. "Sir, may I say something?" "Of course. There are more like me. People who are cleaning your floors at night, who have stories and skills no one ever sees. I was lucky." "You looked." Zion nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time we start looking more often." She smiled and stepped out, leaving him alone with her sketch, and a heart heavier than ever, in the best way possible. That night, he sat at his desk long after the office had emptied, the city glowing beneath him. And all he could think about was how one forgotten sketchbook changed 2 lives. Forever. It had been a year. 1 full year since Mehak's life changed with a forgotten sketchbook, a rainy night, and a CEO who chose to pause and see what no one else had. The janitor girl had become a symbol, not of charity, but of potential. She was now lead concept artist at Crestline Media. Her work had graced magazine covers. She had spoken on panels about creativity, healing through art, and hidden talent. Still, she never let the attention blur her heart. She never forgot where she began. And neither did Zion. That afternoon, Crestline held its first ever Hidden Hands, Bright Minds event, an in-house exhibition for all non-executive staff. Cleaners, guards, kitchen staff, and drivers were invited to submit any creative work they had, paintings, poems, songs, even recipes. It was Mehak's idea. Zion had greenlit it within seconds. The company's huge event hall buzzed with color and conversation. Walls were lined with raw, powerful creations, many rough, many brilliant, all heartfelt. One janitor had painted scenes from his hometown village using coffee and old newspapers. A security guard had written poetry that brought people to tears. A receptionist sang a folk lullaby that was recorded live. Zion stood in the middle of the crowd, watching it all unfold with quiet pride. But his eyes followed only one person, Mehak, moving from person to person, encouraging, listening, lifting others just like she had once longed to be lifted. At one point, she walked up to him with a bright smile. "You did this," she said. He shook his head. "You did this." "No," she insisted softly. "You stopped to see someone the world ignored. That one act, it created a ripple." He looked around, the laughter, the pride in eyes that once only looked down, the joy of being seen. "A ripple," he repeated, "that's becoming a wave." Later that night, Zion stood in front of a blank page in his own notebook. For years, he had led with strategy, vision, and metrics. But that year, he'd led with humanity, and it had brought him the greatest growth his company had ever seen. At the top of the page, he scribbled something. "Look for the invisible. They are the ones holding up the sky." And across the city, a little girl was sketching by candlelight, her father a cleaner, her dreams still wrapped in silence. She looked up at the worn magazine cutout on her wall, a smiling woman holding a pencil, with the headline. Mehak Raza, from janitor to creative leader. The girl whispered to herself, one day, I'll be like her. And that's how a forgotten sketchbook. A quiet CEO. And a young woman with tired hands but a fiery heart. Started something that couldn't be stopped. Not just a promotion. Not just a story. A movement.